What could be more integral to Star Wars but the wars? The massive scale and ground space battles show off just how expansive this universe and story is. From the Clone Wars to the Galactic Civil War, to the countless epic fights in video games and comics, Star Wars is a galaxy at war. But whenever people think about Star Wars battles that are the most staggering in scale, the most exciting, the kind that everyone thinks of when you talk about Star Wars itself, a few really stand out. Today, we are showcasing 5 of the biggest Star Wars clashes that make the franchise the great space opera that it is. Whether across multiple fronts or all in one location, these massive battles are thrilling to watch. If you find yourself glued to the screen during these epic moments, you are not alone.
Here I come.
Let's start things off big. The battle on Geonosis was easily the most massive battle in the Star Wars films. As the Jedi investigated the movements of the Separatists and began to uncover Jango Fett's connection to the clone army, Obi-Wan was captured, and soon Anakin and Padme were captured too. One of the most thrilling parts of a fight is seeing more and more characters join the fray, as is the case here. First, the battle starts with Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme facing off against the monsters in the Geonosis battle arena, but soon over 200 Jedi ignite their lightsabers and come to their rescue, facing off against legions of battle droids. Despite their numbers, they seem to be quickly outmatched. When all hope seemed lost, the clone army arrives and we see the first battle of the Clone Wars spill out over the entire planet. Finally, the fight ends with an epic lightsaber duel and the start of the infamous Clone Wars. The Battle of Geonosis was the most staggering and complex battle we had seen in the movie's release. Watching the clones fight for the first time, witnessing unending legions of battle droids marching into the arena, and seeing so many Jedi fight for the first time is just amazing. It also gives a proper origin to the Clone Wars, which have been the focus of a number of projects. Plus, we got to see legendary characters like Yoda, Mace Windu, and Count Dooku draw their sabers for some epic clashes. This battle has lived in the minds of Star Wars fans for years. It gave us a great perspective on just how massive the Clone Wars were going to be, something we saw in more detail when we got the different animated shows. It was clear from the start that this battle would be so popular that Lucasfilm could dive deep into the resulting wars and explore the consequences of this massive fight. Force push that like and subscribe button for more videos like this one. Many animated series have a hard time depicting the harsh reality of war. It is often used as a backdrop against which to tell a story, with action-packed moments that don't do justice to the challenges and traumas associated with wartime. The Clone Wars does its best to avoid falling into these tropes, and, in a number of episodes, goes out of its way to emphasize the stark realities of war and its rippling effects. Nowhere is this more clear, perhaps, than during the War of Umbra. During this fight, the clones are fighting against the local Umbrians for various strongholds, with barely any droids to be seen. For the series, it's a fairly standard battle. The Republic is attempting to gain control of the planet before the Separatists can sink its claws into its citizens. The entire planet is constantly shrouded in darkness, a setting that makes the fighting all the more dangerous. And for the first time, we see the 501st Legion under the command of Jedi General Pong Krell. While many Jedi form close bonds and even friendships with the clones they led, and we saw the Jedi lead their troops from the front, Krell does neither of these things. He is a commander who sees the clones as disposable soldiers and treats them like statistics. His actions are without regard for any potential casualties, and it's clear that he only cares about completing his objectives, even before he ultimately reveals his turn to the dark side. Watching the clones we know and love struggle just as much against their new commander as they do against the enemy is rough. And finally, when the clones have had enough, we see them arrest and execute Krell in an unprecedented move, which leads us to question what will happen when the war ends. The War on Umbra is one that so many fans remember for simply being a great illustration of all the things that make the Clone Wars great, and for giving us the memorable villain, Hong Krell. It also gives more characterization to the clones, characters we have come to love and appreciate, and their role in the war. While many were excited about The Force Awakens and its return to the Star Wars universe, it lacked the massive battles that many fans have come to expect from the franchise, including the more recent video games and animations. So when Rogue One showed the Rebel Alliance attacking Scarif in a last-ditch attempt to steal the Death Star plans, we were excited to see a massive battle take place both on the ground and in space. But what made this battle especially great, much like the Battle of Endor, was that everyone had a role to play. Once the Rogue One crew learned that the Death Star plans, which would reveal any weakness in the superweapon, were located on Scarif, they quickly launched an attack in an effort to retrieve those plans. They navigated treacherous space terrain and also dealt with various Imperial enemies, including the AT-ACTs and Death Troopers on the ground. The action wasn't just mindless shooting and explosions. Each and every character had something to do to get the plans safely away, and we were able to watch each of those heroes achieve their objectives while navigating their enemies. This helped the battle have a certain flow that tied the whole narrative together. The spectacle, the fan service, and the classic tension between good and evil allowed the Battle of Scarif to instantly become a classic and a fan favorite. Even though we knew that the Rebels would get away with the Death Star plans in the end, all of the stumbling blocks in the way of Rebel victory built the tension perfectly and made for a rewarding payoff after the battle that felt like a breath of fresh air. Plus, every fan was on the edge of their seat when Darth Vader himself entered the fray, and we got to see just how powerful he was. And of course, even though the movie ended in tragedy for the main cast, they did not die in vain, and their success would lead to the events of A New Hope. The Battle of Yavin was the first one that we got to see during Episode 4 that didn't just involve the main characters. It was also a battle that beautifully showcased one of the key themes in the Star Wars saga, that a small force of good could overcome great evil. Small starfighters went up against a space station with enough power to destroy planets, banking on a 1 in a million shot to destroy the Death Star. And they won. If the Death Star had destroyed Yavin 4, then most of the leadership of the rebellion would have perished with it, including several heroes that were instrumental to the eventual defeat of the Empire. If that had happened, the Death Star could have continued moving through the galaxy, enforcing the Tarkin doctrine of strength through fear. Watching the smaller battles between X-Wings and TIE Fighters and seeing Darth Vader take to the stars in his TIE Advance were incredible, epic moments, and there's something about witnessing these smaller clashes in the midst of a larger fight that just feels good. The Battle of Yavin might not be much of a visual spectacle as some of the later Star Wars battles, but it is still a tense one. It takes a lot of influence from World War II dogfights, referencing films and footage from the real-life conflict. Even today, viewers still find themselves on the edge of their seats, watching as Luke learns to trust in the Force and put an end to the Empire's war machine. While you might know him from other animation projects like Samurai Jack or Dexter's Laboratory, Genndy Tartakovsky made his mark on the Star Wars universe with the Clone Wars. And while nearly every minute of a Star Wars series was jam-packed with epic battles, the crowning jewel has to be the Battle of Coruscant. While the Republic is stretched thin, fighting the Separatists all over the galaxy, General Grievous and Count Dooku launch a full-scale attack on the Republic capital of Coruscant in order to capture Chancellor Palpatine. With most of the Jedi away in the Outer Rim sieges, the attack really comes as a surprise to the planet. We get to see armies of clones and droids battle out in space and on packed city streets. Additionally, we get to see several Jedi, including Yoda and Mace Windu, flexing their powers, which is always a lot of fun. Plus, the sheer power and presence that General Grievous brings to the screen as he takes on 3 Jedi to kidnap the Chancellor is nothing short of an epic spectacle. The entire battle, both the large-scale fighting and the moments of individual combat, is a feast for the eyes and shows what the massive invasion would be like before we see the epic space battle at the opening of Revenge of the Sith. It's a memorable piece of animation that puts the war in Star Wars, and also allows both the Jedi and the clones to showcase their powers. There are so many types of conflicts that it's hard to choose just 5 standouts. So if you want to see more of the battles that have helped make Star Wars the legendary universe that is, then let us know in the comments. And make sure to check out our video that compares the ending movies of the original and sequel trilogies.